It is done. That was a message echoing across Imperial frequencies, calm, cold, and certain. The Galactic Empire, forged across 1,000 systems and hardened by centuries of conquest, had at last cornered its most defiant enemy, humanity. The war had raged for years. Planets turned to cinders. Moons shattered into dust. Star lanes drowned in debris and screams. Yet through it all, the humans endured like cockroaches in fire. But now, even the roaches had run out of holes. Earth was gone, not just defeated, erased, burnt atmosphere, lifeless oceans, a tomb spinning in silence. The final human colonies had been swept aside like autumn leaves under orbital fire. Their fleets, once proud and unpredictable, were either annihilated or scattered across the stars, hunted like prey with nowhere to run. The Empire's war machine had turned with ruthless precision, tightening its grip until all that remained was one final ember, a battered resistance force stranded on the edge of Varela Prime. On that dead world surface, the last dozen human fighters clung, to trenches carved from frozen dirt, eyes skyward, watching as the shadow of the Empire's dreadnoughts blotted out the sun. Metal leviathans, pulsing with red energy, positioned themselves above the battlefield like executioners preparing the axe. The command channel crackled inside the helmets of those survivors. No orders, no strategy, just static, and then a soft voice, tired, almost broken. No more reinforcements. They're all dead. You're it. You're the last humans left. No cheers, no courage, just silence, as the truth settled like ash in their lungs. Varela Prime would fall. Humanity would die. The war would end not with a battle, but with a footnote, an obituary buried in the archives of a victorious empire. And still one soldier, bleeding and barely conscious, reached out with frostbitten fingers and activated a dormant comm beacon, one buried so deep, so blacklisted, it wasn't even listed in human command protocol anymore. The screen lit red. The message was only 3 words. No coordinates. No call for help. Just a signal, pulsing like a heartbeat, releasing Ali Baba Yaga. The Empire didn't notice the signal at first. Their AI flagged it as obsolete code, something from a war that ended decades ago, not even worth decrypting. But the veterans, the old officers who had fought the first human skirmishes, they noticed. Their expressions changed. Their skin paled. Some tried to override the invasion sequence. Others abandoned their posts outright. One general, famous for orchestrating the Siege of Ceres, simply stood up, stared at the flashing red screen, and shot himself. It didn't make sense to the younger soldiers. Who or what was Baba Yaga? A new weapon? A last-ditch fleet? A biological horror? The official Imperial records showed nothing. But the field whispers, they told another story. A story that began in the shadows of Earth's forgotten war zones. A story about a human who never spoke unless it was the last thing you ever heard. A ghost in armor. A walking execution. A myth whispered in foxholes and interrogation rooms alike. No name. No rank. Just a call sign. Baba Yaga. Some claimed she was trained from birth by Earth's last Black Ops division, Project Ember. Others believed she was AI-enhanced, part cyborg, part demon. One prisoner confessed to defecting after witnessing her dismantle an entire battalion, using nothing but knives in her bare hands, and not once did she fire a shot. Imperial Command labeled it all nonsense. Wartime hallucinations. Human propaganda. Boogeyman stories. Until that signal went out, back on Varela Prime, the human survivors didn't dare speak her name aloud. They just waited, in silence, in prayer, in terror. And then she came, not with a fleet, not with banners or drums or reinforcements. Just a single, obsidian black stealth pod. It punched through the Varelan sky without a sound, touching down in the scorched no-man's land between the trenches and the Empire's armored line. No engines flared. No doors opened. For a full minute, nothing happened. Even the wind seemed to freeze. And then the pod hissed. Steam vented. And she stepped out. She was tall, covered head to toe in matte black armor that shimmered like liquid midnight. Her visor glowed a low, predatory red, but only on one side, the other cracked and smeared with something ancient and dried. On her back were two blades, one curved, one straight, and a weapon that didn't match any known schematics in the Empire's database. No flag, no insignia, just silence and presence. The humans didn't cheer. They couldn't. Their throats were too tight, because they knew when Baba Yaga arrived, it didn't mean salvation. It meant someone had to pay. Above them, in the command bridge of the lead Imperial dreadnought, alarms began to flash, not because of weapons fire, but because contact had been lost with the forward scout line. Then the second, then the entire eastern flank. No gunfire, no explosions, just silence. The surveillance feeds didn't glitch. They went dark. One by one, the commander issued a scan, then a secondary thermal sweep, then a full recon probe. The only footage returned showed the same thing. Empty helmets. One held up by a blade jammed into the dirt. Another gently spinning in the airlock of a transport bay. And then a message. Not text, not audio. Just one image broadcast to every screen on the Dreadnought's bridge. It was the Imperial comms officer, their comms officer, eyes wide, throat slashed, badge clutched in one hand, and carved across his chest in blood. You thought we were done. They weren't, not even close. And the Empire, the almighty Empire, was about to learn. You can break a planet. You can burn a people. But if you leave behind their monster, you haven't won yet. Because sometimes humanity doesn't send an army. They send Baba Yaga. They always say monsters aren't real. Until you wake up and find one carving its name into your warship's hull with the blood of your commanding officer. The Galactic Empire, calculated, flawless, cruel, had never truly feared anything. Their machines of war spanned galaxies. Their soldiers were genetically engineered to feel no hesitation. Their doctrine was simple: crush, conquer, control. But now, fear had a face, and it wore a cracked visor. Baba Yaga had landed. At first, Imperial Command treated her as an anomaly, a rogue agent, a distraction. One woman in black armor was no threat to a battle-hardened, star-faring superpower. They sent a recon squad, trained assassins, augmented killers, 17 of the Empire's best. 17 never came back. What did come back? One of their helmets, stuffed with ash, and a message scratched into the side in Old Earth Russian. You're already dead. You just haven't accepted it yet. You see, Baba Yaga wasn't here to fight a war. She wasn't here to lead humans back into victory. She wasn't even here for revenge. No, this was something colder. She was here to remind the galaxy of truth it had buried too soon. That when you break humanity, when you take their worlds, their people, their homes, you don't kill them. You wake up what they buried. They had buried her after the first contact war. She was too dangerous, they said, too unpredictable, too human, in all the ways the military didn't want. She didn't follow orders. She left warnings. She vanished for months, then reappeared with enemy leaders crucified to the walls of their own starcruisers. Her kill count wasn't just a number. It was a ghost that followed entire civilizations. The High Command had retired her in silence, hidden her away like a cursed weapon. But now, with humanity at the edge of extinction, they had no choice. The last signal ever sent from a unified human defense network was not a plea. It was an invitation. And she answered. Now, on Varela Prime, she moved like a whisper between metal and flame. Imperial tanks sat idle. Crews found dead inside. No entry wounds, no alarms triggered. Command bunkers imploded. Power cores sabotaged. Not with explosives, but with cold, surgical precision. She used no mass weapons. No orbital strikes. Just blades. Wire. Silence. Cameras caught only glimpses. A shadow turning a corner. A red light in a hallway. A reflection in the blood-slick wall. Imperial officers began refusing transfers to the Varela campaign. Some falsified injuries. Some killed their own squad mates just to be pulled from deployment. Because by then, they had realized Baba Yaga wasn't fighting a war. She was a war. One Imperial commander, Admiral Krythar, known for turning oceans into acid just to break a human colony, tried to end it quickly. He deployed orbital plasma strikes, targeting every square meter Baba Yaga might be hiding. They lit up the planet's surface for 23 hours. Non-stop fire, blinding, blistering heat. They turned mountains into rivers of glass. When it was over, he stood on his command bridge, arms folded, proud, until the bridge doors opened behind him. Unauthorized. The guards were already dead. Krythar turned, and there she was. Helmet off, scarred face, cold eyes. She didn't speak. She didn't scream. She walked forward, covered in soot and fire and death. Krythar drew his pistol, fired 3 times. All headshots. She kept walking. He never made it to the 4th shot. Back in Imperial Central Command, panic became a policy. All files on Baba Yaga were pulled, redacted, then reclassified as Class Omega Threat. Her image became forbidden to share. Speaking her name out loud? Treason. Entire regiments were told. She is not real. She cannot be real. But on the battlefield, reality didn't care. The dreadnoughts orbiting Varela started withdrawing one by one. Not under attack. Not even targeted. They ran. They left their ground forces stranded. Because the message was clear now. No one was coming to save them. And she was already there. And still, she didn't stop. She moved through the remaining bases like a virus through a dying body. One night, the Empire sent a Psi unit, a telepathic assassin with hive mind vision and predictive combat modeling. She died screaming within 7 minutes. The message that echoed on every Imperial channel afterward? A single voice, Baba Yaga's voice. Cold, direct, final. You took everything. Now I take it back in blood. The final straw came when the Empire received a transmission from the outer colonies, not from humans, from their own soldiers. The message was a plea. Please, please cancel the invasion. She's not a soldier. She's death. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't stop. Every night she comes. And every night more of us vanish. We don't know how. We don't know when. Just that no one ever sees her twice. It ended with a scream and static. That message was never acknowledged by Central Command. But within hours, 3 more planets declared neutrality. 5 commanders vanished from their posts. And the bounty on Baba Yaga's head was raised to 10 billion credits. No one claimed it, because no one was stupid enough to try. She was no longer a human. She was a myth given breath, a shadow that hunted shadows, a weapon that even war gods would fear. And across the stars, from the lowest trench rat to the highest noble of the Empire's bloodline, one thing had become very, very clear. Humanity was never weak. They were just waiting to let her off the chain. You'd think the fall of an empire would begin with a massive fleet, a desperate alliance, or a final stand led by fearless generals. But no, this one started with a whisper, a rumor, a single woman moving through the dark, and everything she touched died. By now, the Galactic Empire knew her name. They just didn't dare say it. Every time a commander ordered her hunted, he turned up dead before the order could be signed. Every squad sent to ambush or vanished. No battle, no struggle, just silence, like they had been erased from time itself. The Empire had machines, superweapons, world killers. She had patience and precision and a purpose as sharp as the twin blades strapped to her back. She didn't strike randomly. No, she struck intimately, with knowledge only someone deeply, terrifyingly human could possess. She began to dismantle the Empire not by overpowering it, but by infecting it. It started with fear. Soldiers began requesting reassignment off the Varela campaign. Then they stopped sleeping. Then they stopped talking, too afraid to even speak about what they'd seen. Some reported hallucinations. Others swore they saw her reflection in their helmet glass even when they were alone. Command tried to suppress the panic. They labeled her a human propaganda tool, called her psychological warfare. But war doesn't bleed, and Baba Yaga did. She bled, she breathed, and she kept coming. One night, a high-value Imperial outpost, Outpost 417 received a secure drop package. It bypassed all scans. No alarms triggered. Inside, no bomb, no virus, just a hand, a severed human hand, belonging to an admiral who'd ordered Earth's destruction. Tattooed on the palm, in black ink, were 3 words. I remember everything. From that moment, nothing was the same. Entire battalions began abandoning their posts at the mere hint of her presence. One fleet turned its weapons on itself mid-mission, claiming they were already compromised. Another flagship detonated its own reactor after Baba Yaga's voice echoed across its comms, and no one could trace how she got in. Her message? You burned Earth to make an example. I'll return the favor one scream at a time. She wasn't conquering planets. She was cracking the Empire's mind. The turning point came not in a battlefield, but in a boardroom. Imperial Sector Council Zeta, 28 governors, advisors, and generals met on Station Varnak to discuss the Baba Yaga situation. The meeting was secured. No external comms. No transmissions. Guarded by 80 elite sentinels. At 0300 hours, all 28 council members were found dead. Not bombed. Not shot. Each executed with a single knife wound. Different placement for each. Every one of them had their last words recorded on a datapad she'd left behind. Screamed. Pleaded. Some in languages long dead. And the datapad's final message? A soft, recorded whisper. No council rules over graves. By this point, the Empire's leadership was paralyzed. No protocol accounted for this. No countermeasures stopped her. She wasn't hacking their systems. She was hacking their minds. Entire operations were canceled just because a shadow passed the moon too quietly. Generals slept in shifts, always armed, always trembling. And the galaxy? It watched, not in horror, but in awe. Baba Yaga wasn't just feared. She was followed. All across the stars, human refugees trapped in Imperial chains began to whisper. They etched her name into prison walls. Drew her image on stolen datapads. Black armor, red visor, twin blades. They told each other, she's coming for us. Just wait. And they were right. In the mines of Ralto 7, where thousands of human captives were worked to death under twin suns, an explosion tore through the guard barracks. No survivors. No external approach detected. The humans in the mines found a crate dropped into the pit with food, medical kits, and weapons. Attached to it, a red visor. They rose. They fought. They won. And when asked who led them, they all gave the same answer. She did. She freed us. No one ever saw her, but she had been there. Then came the final blow to the illusion of imperial control. The Emperor himself, speaking before the Galactic Senate, declared Baba Yaga a nonentity, a psychotic legend used to destabilize civilization. He swore she would be found and executed publicly. The next morning, his private palace guards found something left on his pillow. It wasn't a knife. It wasn't a threat. It was an old photo, a pre-war image, of Earth, lush, blue, whole, and on the back, written in black ash, you destroyed beauty for power. Now power will rot in your hands. The Emperor didn't leave his palace again. He ruled through proxies. He moved only with armed escort. And every mirror in the palace was covered, because he knew she was getting closer. And that was the truth of it all. Baba Yaga wasn't fighting with numbers or ships or armies. She was using their own fear as her army. She made their strength brittle. She made their systems collapse from within. She turned their pride into panic, their power into poison. And she didn't do it with weapons of mass destruction. She did it with one memory of what they did to her people, of Earth, of the screams, of the ashes. She was the war that never ended, the consequence they never calculated, the ghost that would never rest. And now, across every corridor of the crumbling empire, her legend marched before her like a warning. One woman, one war, and one name that could end empires. Baba Yaga. It started with a scream that never made it to the records. A scream that echoed through the golden halls of the imperial capital, not from an attack, not from an invasion, but from a senator who awoke in his bed to find his guards nailed to the walls and a single symbol carved into floorboards with surgical precision. A red eye inside a cracked circle. No name, no blood, just a mark. And every official in the palace knew what it meant. She was here. The Empire had never known defeat. Not truly. Not on this scale. Not with this terror. Not by one person. And that's what made Baba Yaga unstoppable. She was never just a killer. She was a collapse. A message wrapped in flesh and fury. In a galaxy where power was measured in fleets and credits and superweapons, she changed the equation entirely. She made fear more valuable than firepower, and worse. For the Empire, she made hope contagious. It began on Zorth 9, a mining colony where humans have been enslaved for nearly a decade. The local governor, a cruel warlord named Trelvas, ordered public executions every week just to keep morale broken. Until one day, the execution platform exploded without warning, replaced by a hologram of Earth's oceans. And a voice. Her voice. They thought we were gone. They thought we'd forgotten. We remember. Now so will they. By dawn, the slaves were armed. By sunset, the governor's palace was a bonfire. And on the ash-covered gates, they hung the imperial banners upside down and spray-painted one phrase in crimson. She walked here. The event wasn't isolated. In the following weeks, rebellion bloomed like wildfire across the Empire's outer rim. Not because Baba Yaga gave speeches, not because she led fleets, but because she moved, quietly, with precision, from shadow to shadow. And every system she passed through, something changed. Something snapped. On the prison world of Orodex, 5,000 inmates, many human, many not, were locked underground with no hope of survival. No light, no visitors, only suffering. But one night, the power grid surged. Doors unlocked. Guards vanished. And one by one, the prisoners found their way into the open. No one saw who released them. But etched into the wall of Cell 09, was a simple phrase, scorched into steel. Be free. Be feared. The prisoners didn't escape. They retaliated. They turned Orodex 3 into a fortress and renamed it the First Flame. And as that flame spread, so did something far more dangerous than bombs. Faith, not religious, not political. A human kind of faith. The kind that believes, even in the face of an empire, even when the sky is falling, even when your bones are broken and your home is gone, that you can still stand up, that you can still fight. Because she did. Imperial strategists tried to contain it. They deployed more ships, more terror squads. They declared martial law on a dozen systems. But it didn't work. You can't shoot a myth. You can't bomb a whisper. And Baba Yaga had become both. Everywhere she went, she didn't leave a trail of survivors. She left movements. Entire squadrons defected just because they heard she might be near. Factories shut down out of sheer panic. And when the Empire tried to flood the networks with disinformation, images of Baba Yaga captured or dead, no one believed it. Because hours later, another admiral would vanish. Another dreadnought would explode from the inside. Another governor would choke on their own blood, alone in a locked room. And the only trace left behind? Her mark. The elite began to crumble first. They were the ones who had authorized Earth's destruction. They were the ones who profited from human suffering. They were the ones who laughed when they said, humanity had no teeth left. Now they couldn't even sleep without body doubles. They built panic rooms, bought private armies, lived in bunkers buried a mile beneath the surface of luxury moons. None of it mattered, because Baba Yaga didn't attack where you were strongest. She waited until you looked away, and then she reminded you what vengeance looks like when it learns patience. One by one, sectors began to fall, not to fleets, but to fear. One system declared neutrality. Then another pledged allegiance to the Silent Flame, a name whisper for the revolution she inspired. Soon, entire constellations went dark. And when the Empire sent ships to reassert control, they found burned banners, empty cities, and no enemies to shoot. Just messages, everywhere, etched into ship hulls. scratched onto walls, projected into the sky. We are the ashes, we are the storm, and she is coming. The Imperial Senate finally cracked. A vote was called in secret, a final solution. They wanted to use the Void Bomb, a forbidden weapon, a system killer, to end the rebellion, to end her, one vote short. The senator holding that vote never made it to the chamber. His transport was found drifting in space. Everyone aboard was alive, except him, and in a seat, someone had placed a small earth flower, frozen in cryoglass. No note, no message, just the impossible reminder of what they had destroyed. And so, at last, the Empire looked in the mirror and saw a crack they couldn't mend. They had thought they were winning. They had thought they were invincible. They had thought one woman couldn't matter. But that was their greatest mistake, because she didn't just matter. She made everything else fall apart, not by fighting armies, not by building one, but by turning her pain into purpose and letting the galaxy feel it.